Welcome back to the Storm Before the Calm podcast. I am your host, Lori Grace Bailey. I'm excited today. I'm always excited, aren't I? But I'm super excited to have our special guest, Dr. Cameron Nixon. Dr. Nixon, Cameron, it's great to have you. Thanks for being on here. Thanks for agreeing to just sit with me and have a chat with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's kind of get into it. You kind of know what the podcast is about. But I have a feeling that some of the people who are either just recently joining the podcast, learning and listening to the podcast, they might not know who you are. I know a lot of us people who are excited about weather and storms and all that good stuff know about you. We learn about photographs through you, and now we're starting to learn about hail through you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this point in your life? And we don't have to start all the way back to you were a glimmer in your father's eye. It's a little too
Yeah,
far
that's a
back.
question.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm excited to get to know you more a little bit as well.
Yeah, well, great question. I work here at OU, and I work with the Storm Prediction Center. And I'm basically a techniques development research scientist, and I basically help come up with new tools and tricks to make better forecasts. And one thing that I've really been fixated on lately is hail, like you said. I've gone through a few research phases, photographs, which are different ways to read kind of the wind shear in the atmosphere, storm interactions, how you can look at radar and see other storms kind of misbehave and interact with each other, and now hail. So it's been a ride, but I think this is just my passion and my drive is just to help better our forecast.
That's awesome. One of the things that, and I'm already forgetting the word that I got super excited. I was already barely learning what a photograph is and what it does and how it symbolizes.
Yeah.
It's really the same thing that you see on the right side of the skew T, right? As far as the
Yes.
shear, you can see
Yeah.
the different wind barbs, but that's kind of laid out on a 2D plane, or is it a
Yes.
3D
Exactly.
plane?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a 2D. So
Yeah.
learning that, but then you actually started to talk about Fujiwhara. Like
Yes.
for someone who's just watching this and they're just getting into storm chasing, this is some cool stuff, Cameron. This Fujiwhara, and you started talking about this a lot, especially during storm season. We saw these storms in Oklahoma kind of
Yes.
dancing around each other. I know this is a little bit just jumping off of it. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Fujiwara is? Because I think it's cool. I've seen tornadoes themselves kind of do that. They're
Yeah. Yeah.
two
Yeah.
tornadoes kind of dance with one another. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it's really a gray area, especially with supercells. The Fujiwara effect was first coined for hurricanes, and I think might technically be only used to refer to hurricanes, but a lot of us have, brought that word into tornado interactions, and I think I'm trying to do that with supercell interactions too.
So we're co-opting it, the
Yes,
ground community, and from instead of the hurricane
yeah, we're
fans.
kind of taking it over.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and like what it is, and you mentioned tornadoes. One really famous example of this was the Pilger, Nebraska tornadoes back in 2013. Two
Dual
violent,
tornadoes.
yeah, at the same time. And really, what happens is their wind fields start to influence each other, and they'll start to kind of slowly swirl around each other, and maybe even combine. Sometimes they don't do that. I don't think they didn't do that in Pilger, but with supercells, it's a little bit more common. You'll get two supercells that are kind of close by, kind of swirl around each other, and then one ultimately takes over and
Yeah.
continues. Yeah.
I saw that at a couple of during Camp Clovis. If
Yes.
you've been in the
Yeah.
storm chasing community a couple of years ago, or was it 3 year? But 3 years ago now, I think,
That's
or is it
23, I
two?
think.
23.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, in 2023, and I made my way out to that same area that every other chaser was, because that Clovis area was just bonkers. That had some of the best supercells that I
Yeah.
know. Many, especially photographers who love to capture the beauty of these. Seeing that
Yeah.
Grady, I know there was a tornado in there. I stayed way out because that sucker was
Yeah.
just a monster. I know Hunter is. I think Hunter saw the tornado. I think that Trey Greenwood also got close enough
Yeah.
to see the wind field, but I stayed out and I just saw this monster. But beforehand, I was looking at two different mesos, right? Two different
Yeah.
supercells interacting
Yeah.
with one another. And I think you saw my time lapse and you said that it looked like there might have been some Fujiwara going. I'm making this a verb. I know it's not a verb, but there's a little bit of that interaction going on.
I've
Right?
made it too.
So I
Yeah,
think that's what's
and
going on.
this is what I really I think this kind of gets into the meat of who I am as a researcher. I love patterns. I love seeing patterns. My brain is just kind of trained to look for things that happen over and over again, and that's one of them, right? It's that's my whole reliable, I guess, to getting a tornado out of a day is seeing two supercells next to each other start to merge. It's like, yeah, seen this before. It's going to happen again. And that's why I got so interested in photographs too. It's because like no two are alike, but if you stare at them long enough, you'll see a couple that are really similar, and they'll
Right.
start to serve as kind of the DNA of the storm and how it
Mm.
behaves. And similar photographs make similar storms, and it's just the pattern repeats.
I'll just tell you this, that, as my knowledge grows, I still feel very undereducated, I should say, when I chase storms. I know I have enough to get, like John says, get to the ballpark, you'll figure out your seats later. I'm really pretty good and very confident in my ability to find the right storms, find tornadoes on my own. I saw the one near Texoma last year. That was really cool because I had people
You're
tell
one of
me,
the
what
only
on earth.
people who did.
Yeah, people are like, "Lori, everybody's going south," and there's some people were even going towards Clovis because that kinda was looking
Yeah,
juicy, and I just, I went with my gut, but I did see plenty of interaction on that boundary. I love that boundary, by the way, that
yeah,
frontal boundary. I know it was cold. I know people are like,
yeah.
"Poof," and they're the ones tisking that they didn't go, but
It
that was the
worked.
reason I went. I was like,
Yeah,
I've seen boundary interaction do some really cool things, especially with that moisture flowing north." And then people were like, "Well, why didn't you go east?" People were telling me, "Go east. Those storms to the east are really," and I was like, "That's looking mushy, just visual, right? You got to get out of your vehicle." And I know I'm getting
yeah,
excited talking about my own chases,
yeah,
but when you get out and you just go, "Oh, that looks like crap." You see these towers go up and then they just go multicellular, like, "Nope, don't go
yeah,
there." And then I see
yeah,
this little piece of crap way off in the distance over near Boise City. And I'm like, that is what I like. I love solitary supercells by
yeah.
themselves.
You've
It,
chased enough to know the pattern and like
Yeah,
what you're
and
looking
that's what
for.
you're
Your
talking
intuition is
about.
spot.
I
Yeah,
just wanna thank you for that 'cause, all the
yeah,
stuff that you've been teaching, all the stuff that the talking about photographs, deviant tornadoes, and Fujiwhara, and now this hail stuff, I'm just learning, like, you're starting to find patterns with hail and tornadoes, and I know that's something you've talked about recently and have been in more in depth about that. How does that play a factor? And I know we haven't gotten into the weeds of more of who you are as a person, but I'm just still excited, and I wanna
yes.
know more. How are you finding hail and the increase in hail suddenly prior to tornado genesis? Is that something you feel comfortable talking about? Because I know
Yeah,
you just published a recent paper on that too.
yeah. I will admit that's a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but still like a topic that I am concerned about,
Yeah, yeah.
and want to figure out. I think a lot of what I've kind of been doing lately is finding that there is a difference between the environments that inherently favor hail and the environments that favor tornadoes. There could be a difference. And then there's some point where they overlap, and then you'll get, like El Reno that produced a mega
Right.
tornado and really huge hail. And it's just been fascinating to me to find kind of the ends of the spectrum. Like, what are the environments that are only tornado and no hail? And what are the environments that are lots of hail and no tornadoes, and kind of work from
Sure.
there and find the middle. And what I'm discovering, I guess, is that there's a lot of kind of nuance in the hazards that supercells predict. And like some environments, even though they have a really strong shear, really big cape, they're not really good hail producers, and
Right.
might largely just get tornadoes. And usually, when a tornado watch or outlook comes out, right, it's the all hazards threat, right? All hazards are
Right.
possible, but what if there's no hail? Is that
Hmm.
included? So yeah, it's been a cool problem to tackle.
I love it because it seems like I would say it's fair to assume that you enjoy cracking the egg, cracking the mysteries
100%.
of tornadoes
Yeah,
and
yeah,
storms, and that's what you've been doing, and I think that's what makes me so excited because this little trigger in my head or this little light bulb in my head when I'm there at the storm, it's all clicking and "Alright." So Cameron, the thing about you cracking the egg, solving these mysteries
yeah.
that makes each storm unique or that gives them their commonalities. I think that's why I'm so excited to just gather that knowledge from you because when I'm there, when I pull over and you look at that storm, you go, "Oh my gosh," "Oh, I see it decoupling," or you're looking at the nudgers, right? You're going,
Yeah,
Wait, what is this coming?" And then you start it starts to come together, right? Your
yeah,
knowledge starts to you start to put the pieces together, and someone like me, I start to see it. I learned this. I know what's going on. And
yeah.
when you get that pattern, the excitement just builds on top of it. And that's why I'm such a just an excited noob when it comes to chasing. And that's what I love about getting back onto the plains now. It's not just photography for me now. It's the excitement of all these little pieces finally coming together. Because we're all at different levels. I don't have PhD level understanding of meteorology. I'm just a
And you don't need
photographer,
to.
and you don't need
Yeah.
to. And that's what I love. I wanted to find out, you've not only are you excited about studying the science of meteorologists, but you get out there. You love to get out there and chase yourself. Not
Yeah.
chase yourself, but chase as well. And so can you share one of your most memorable, and maybe it's attached to some of the photos we'll be looking at. If you're listening to the audio podcast, by the way, I always encourage you to go to YouTube and watch the video, because we always
That's
like to share some good stuff as well with the
I got some
photos.
cool pictures on there too.
Yeah, we've got some cool pictures I wanna share. But share one of your most memorable experiences of chasing extreme weather, and it doesn't necessarily have to be tornadoes, but I have a feeling it's probably gonna be a tornado.
Yes, and your feeling was correct. I figured, because this is a very a person centric
Right.
podcast. I really wanted to bring up kind of my origin story
Mm.
for this one, and that would be the Rochelle EF4 tornado back in 2015.
Is that one of the
Yeah,
photos
I
there?
believe that's the first photo. Is kind of a
Okay.
really crappy looking one with like a car in the
I
foreground.
was gonna say it's a little I had to, like, blow it up and everything, so I'm
Yeah,
going to share that photo, and you can start talking about it then, because we'll bring that up here while you're talking, if that's cool with you.
yeah,
So, here we go. There we go.
yeah. There it is.
So this is Rochelle. I don't know
Yes.
anything about this. Can tell us about this. It looks like 2 tornadoes, maybe?
Yeah, so it's actually just one. It's way in the background. You can kind of see the left edge of it, um, kind of with that lightning in the back. Yeah, you're circling it right there, right above that
Okay.
car.
Okay.
Yeah, and so this was Illinois' strongest tornado in a very long time.
My goodness.
So we had a convective kind of what should I call it? Storm intercept team at my alma mater, Valparaiso University, and
Wow.
we would go out and just have our little happy, fun little chases. I'd gone on one chase prior, and we just saw a little bit of rain. We had fun. We went out to eat, whatever. Like college level storm chasing. Some people getting into it for the first time in their lives, and really we're doing it to gain a better understanding of weather. And so this was my second chase, I believe, and just kind of started out like any other day, right? You had I think a 10 hatched risk and it looked pretty good. So we headed out to
Right.
Illinois. Short story long, we missed the tornado by just a little bit. We saw it from a distance. And then we just kind of wound up in the damage path, in the
Mm.
worst of the damage path. Some geeks here might know that that is the Grubstakers restaurant, which is actually, I think, where some of the strongest EF4 ratings came from. Don't quote me on that. A lot of the nearby stuff. Where your cursor is right now by that down power pole, there were houses there, and there are no more.
No.
And this a traumatizing experience.
Oh my goodness. It looks like there's some serious damage here. It looks like that semi
Yeah,
got caught up in the circulation as well.
yeah, yeah. I think that's
Oh,
a
damn.
semi. Yeah, and so this is kind of where it all started. We were a bunch of kind of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I was a sophomore, and I wouldn't wish seeing this upon anyone. And I think today we just have so many people who chase storms that such a large kind of fraction of them really haven't had this experience to kind of sober them up and show them what they're actually after. And a lot of us, right, might only chase, pretty tornadoes out in the plains. when in reality, like, this is it. This is the problem that we need to figure out. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so without making this too dark, right? Like I've been left with kind of a permanent scar from this day, and
I
a
can
lot of
imagine.
I yeah, yeah, a lot of my kind of um research drive is because of this and trying to figure out, how the heck did this happen and how could we
Absolutely.
better forecast the next one.
Oh, man, and it kinda levels the feeling of, the excitement and everything. I've
100%.
seen it time and time again from storm chasers going out there, and then all of a sudden, um, you know, Tanner Charles, I've seen he's come upon some stuff. Hunter was telling me when he
Yeah.
was, I think, the first or second person on this podcast, by the way, and he shared a story, and it really woke him up as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's not what you want to encounter, but you said this was your second chase, like, of all
Yeah,
time,
it's my
or
second chase ever, and I go between this being my first and my second tornado. I actually think it was my first, and yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, I just wish. It's such a conflicting thought. It's like I wouldn't wish this upon anyone, yet at the same time, I wish more people had that experience in storm chasing just because of that perspective that it adds. I think it really changes you as a person and what you go into chasing,
so I'm assuming
what
you
kind of
saw the
mentality.
injuries as well when when you drove up. There were people that were injured. You could see that clearly. There's lots of ambulances, EMS vehicles, fire trucks, and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
I
rough.
can't say honestly, I think we might have gotten there before a lot of the EMS.
Wow.
I can't say I personally saw injuries, but I will not forget, like, the women and children coming out of their cellars to nothing. Like, I saw that with my own eyes. It's haunting. I think for me, it's just kind of like that that moment, that experience just ignited in me
Yeah, no
kind
kidding.
of insatiable desire to learn.
Even as a chaser now, I've always wanted to be able to do that. And someone like Tim Samaras, right, who didn't have, I don't think he had a degree, he had knowledge. And I know that
Yeah,
he didn't let that stop him though. He knew that he could somehow, if he's going to be out there, he wanted to contribute to the science.
yeah,
And he wasn't just someone that went out there to enjoy the skies. I love seeing a really good storm, but at the same time, I want to be able to do something that can contribute to that or contribute
yeah,
to something in some way. Before we started this podcast earlier, as I was getting ready, I was thinking, you know, you love to bring value to the table. You're always bringing some kind of value with you. And you're
yes.
adding value to the conversation, to the table, and then you're still enjoying in the middle of enjoying the storm or getting after it. You're still a fun guy. You're not a Debbie Downer, right?
Yeah,
But you
I
still want
like
to
to
bring
think
value
so.
to that. And you're always sharing that. And I learned about deviant tornadoes because of you. You know what I mean? But it's again now I'm seeing that and I'm paying more attention that I don't want to get Hunter's gonna kick my butt, but get close, shoot wide. I say that all the
Right,
time
right.
now, but at the same time, don't get too close. I listen to Skip all the time, and I'm always going back
Yeah,
and watching Skip Talbot's videos over. I can't tell you
we
over
are
and
all
over
his
how many
his
times.
disciples.
Right? Exactly. But I see him going, I have to maintain situational awareness. But I have a feeling that I need to be prepared for just what you saw. You know what I mean? And so I want to be able to bring value to the table. And I really think that's kind of the nature of this podcast as well. Is I want it to bring value. I don't want it to just be a fun conversation. So what role has perseverance though played in your pursuit of extreme weather? You have persevered. You have started something. And I remember in another podcast that you mentioned that you felt like you didn't think that you could or that you would want to go for your doctorate. Am I right? You talked about that. But then someone else kind of convinced you, hey, you've already got skin in the game, man. You don't want to quit in the third quarter.
Yeah, yeah. That was John Allen. That was my PhD advisor, and
Wow.
quite literally came down to Lubbock. I think he was on some kind of extended chase. I said he wined and dined me to to,
No kidding.
to convince me to get this PhD. And I my very first correspondence with him, like I straight up texted him no. I'm like, I'm not.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I did.
You're like, nope.
Very candidly, yeah. And by the time that was over, I took his offer, and I just think, it almost felt like he kind of found me. This is a little bit dramatic, but kind of found me on the street. Like I was just a little aimless at that point in my life. I had this dream, but like I didn't have the means to get there and fulfill it. And I think he recognized that and he scooped me up, and my life changed after that.
You know, I love to hear that, and I think that's why I remembered that story because you sometimes it just takes someone to mentor, to reach out. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for a couple of really great friends back when I was young. Actually, it was even before I graduated high school. I had a couple of my youth pastor at the day. I was like, "Why don't you apply for financial aid? Why don't?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm just some poor kid in the most violent neighborhood in El Paso, and I'm nobody." And they're like, "You are somebody. You can do this, and why don't you apply for college? And there's
Yeah,
hope out there. There's help out there." And they actually picked me up, my two friends, my youth pastor and his buddy, and they picked me up at the house in his car, drove me in his '82 Honda Civic to the high school during college night or whatever, and I
yeah.
filled out forms and filled out for grants and loans and did what I needed to do to actually get to college. But that started me on a path that, it's sometimes you just need someone, sometimes you just need a little help from your friends. How have you grown, and how have you changed over the years through your experiences? I think that's where I want to go with that because that was life changing for me. You had a mentor that helped you get through that as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good question. I think what I have had to kind of learn over time is how to put my ideas into action. And, self-proclaimed ADHD researcher. I have lots of these ideas floating around. Most of them that you've seen, like haven't even seen the light of day, right? I got most of the
Really?
ideas in my head, other than the ones that you've seen, never make it out on paper. Struggled in the beginning of my career with, I think, just being a little bit too loud with some of my ideas and a little bit too convicted. I think without doing the work and doing like the good science behind them. And that's I think the path that I was headed down before John Allen snagged me.
Did he
Was
help you pump the brakes a little bit on that, or actually help you focus in on, hey, this is what you're good at. Let's
Yeah,
target something
I
instead
think it was
of
more the latter. The reason I love John is because he didn't want me to pump the brakes. He wanted me
okay.
to pump the gas.
Wow.
And, like, and that's what I love, and that's the kinda energy that I try to give towards other people is,
Yeah,
that encouragement, right? Like, I've
absolutely.
I think on that note, I'll kind of spout off a little bit, but
Sure.
I don't think we have enough of that in academic research. There's a lot more kind of caution and, we should suppress this, carry on with the status quo, and not enough, this is a cool idea, this is new, let's take it somewhere. And I just needed to figure out how to actually take it somewhere. I think just learning the scientific process is obviously the biggest part of a PhD is understanding how to kind of persuade people with not just your words but also your science. I
I love
really,
that.
really learned.
You sound to me the way what you're describing, you sound like you would be a student of Dead Poet Society. Like, why did I forget
Yes,
about that? So in Dead Poet Society, you seem to be like you would have been one of his students, right? Robin Williams students talking about seizing the day, getting after it and making the most out of it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's just I'm driven, and of course, this is not the norm in research. I don't think it is, but I'm driven by these moments where I see people with great ideas being, kind of suppressed for whatever reason, or kind of quieted, or maybe you should do this instead. And I'm not about that. I think grand new ideas are really the way to kind of push science.
I know you're going to be speaking to several people that are watching this and going, "Man, is he talking about me? I
Yeah,
have ideas. I don't feel like I could see them through fruition." You know what I mean? I'm the same person. I actually have a few things that I actually think I can contribute to the science not tornadoes. And I won't go into it because I'm actually talking with a professor at a certain university about a project
No
about
kidding.
something in a way that I can help. And I won't reveal anything because my wife
Well,
would kick
dang, I
my
was gonna
butt and say,
ask.
"Why did you give that up?" I'll tell you on the side, but it's really exciting. And I really like the lights kind of all went off
Oh, it's
and
awesome.
I presented it to someone who I really respect in the science of this topic, and I'll just leave it at that. Like, man, do I really have something to contribute to society? Not just society, but do I have
Yeah,
something that can blossom? Here we are with AI just replacing us as photographers, replacing video, replacing humans, right? Like you're talking to something online, you're like, wait a minute, that motion did not look right. That video is
yeah,
BS. It's AI, or is it? We're starting to blur the lines between all of that. How can we retain our individuality and all of that? I don't want to get too far into philosophical discussions here, but you speaking to someone out there, like I wanted to ask, um, is what advice would you give to someone that's going through that experience or that their own challenges or hardships when it comes to that? I'm talking to young Cameron. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
What would you have to say to someone like that?
Well, especially young Cameron in the age of AI, it will be a long time before AI can come up with new ideas. And honestly, I think that's the advice that I would give everyone. And I've gotten to see as I use ChatGPT and Gemini over time how good it's getting with like just rattling off. Ooh, I know that cape works this way and shear works this way or whatnot. But that's 40-year-old knowledge, right? It's way and I don't know, call me a pessimist, but I don't think it's going to ever get to that point where it's developing new ideas and advancing kind of the philosophy of science. And that's why we're here.
It might not be at that position yet,
Yeah,
but it sure is instilling fear in so many of us who are wondering if we have dreams to come to
yeah,
fruition. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I think
yeah,
that's important.
yeah,
You're seeing it, you're chasing your own dreams, and you're contributing in such a way that someone like myself is like, I can go out there and the pieces come together. And I can't explain it completely, but I understand it now and it's palatable. And there's a brilliance in the knowledge and knowing that you want to chase that bit of science and look for these commonalities and storms, and I can get it. Someone like me can understand something that you had as an idea. You were able to bring it to light and to show that there's something new out there, even with meteorology. And so, we're
always.
all talking about nudgers in storms now. We're talking about these things. We're going straight to photographs and going, "Ooh, that looks good." And then we
Yeah,
all
right.
bust together anyway. We're like, "Hey, you're not 100% correct either." Photographs aren't the there is no catch all be all, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, when it comes to
yeah,
forecasting. So there's plenty of knowledge to be taught, to be learned, and to be shared, I think, out there even for others. So I know. Let's switch gears here really quickly. So what was the most exhilarating, that being your second tornado aside, let's put that one to the side. But what's
yeah.
been your second most exhilarating moment that you've ever experienced out there on the plains?
This is a tough one, man. I'm just gonna tell my Dora story because I really love my Dora story. I think that might be one of the second pictures too. It's the one with the tornado at the bottom, but a really big supercell
Was
above
that
it.
Dora, New Mexico? Was that the one? I've seen
Yes.
another, he's a local chaser from that
Yep.
area, and
Yep.
they've got a
I think his
print
name
of
is
his.
Kyle.
Yeah, is that the same tornado? Oh my
Yeah, it
goodness. I
is.
didn't know
It
that.
is.
That's one of my favorite photos ever, but you're a lot closer here. We'll go back to that Dora photo. Here we go. Well, that's not Dora.
Maybe the
Okay,
next
let's.
one. Yeah.
Oh
There it
yeah,
is.
this one. This is
Yes. Yeah.
Dora.
Yes.
I saw the top of this in the Kyle. I forget his last name. Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he even had even more of the this barber pole. You don't typically see tornadoes at the bottom of these type of sculpted supercells, right? Like
No.
I know that there's a difference, and I'm learning like, oh, that's pretty, but the chances go down of actually seeing a tornado at the
Yes.
bottom. So
Yeah.
tell me about this. Like this is, dude, this is top tier for me. I would lose my I lose my freaking mind at just structure. So
I
tell me
did.
about it.
No. I mean, man. Anytime I get to talk about Dora, my beloved,
Holy,
we actually woke up in a 15 hatched risk of tornadoes up in Kansas that day, and I think the primary target was kind of northwest Kansas, eastern Colorado. Like, still hate myself for this. We were actually in a group of 4 people. We each had, our own. We had 2 cars, and me and my buddy decided to make the split from our group, and, and simultaneously become the most hated people. And
I
I
bet.
still feel bad about that. I still, teamwork kind of dropped off the window that day. We had a very
No,
animated discussion as to, to which target would be best.
because Dora is pretty far south from Kansas. You're talking eastern New Mexico, not like Farmington area. And
Yeah,
then that's what, a 5-hour peel. I mean, you had to peel away and
it was at
really
least,
commit to it.
yeah, I think it was probably 6 or 7.
Wow.
And we actually drove out of the tornado watch completely into a marginal risk
Oh my goodness.
near Dora. Yeah,
Talk
and
about a Hail
this
Mary.
happened in a very kind of low probability zone, and I don't know. There's just something about it. Like I'd chased in Lubbock for the last couple of years before that, and I kind of got to know its quirks and how there might be kind of an underrepresentation of moisture and dew points in the models. This just kind of looked like a bonkers kind of parameter space, and so we went for it. And I think this was I love my forecasts where like I kind of really go against the grain and kind of play the lottery. So like what is the highest risk, highest reward target that I could go to? I can really get suckered with that one though and miss some things, but this is
What
the
if you
same.
had missed it and they had, your peers? What if the guys in Kansas, did they
Yeah.
also win, or was that a bust in Kansas?
From what I remember, it was not a win.
Ugh,
You win some, you lose some.
the agony of defeat.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the same. I'm gonna lose one by making the same decision that I made winning this one.
That's something, because this is a Hail Mary pass for you, and you
Yes.
caught it. Everybody loves a good Hail Mary pass as long as it's caught. If it's
Yep.
not caught,
Yep.
you wasted away a really
Yep.
good shot at something else. So, but that's the nature of chasing.
I think it
Sometimes you mm,
really kind of illuminates the almost like emotional connection to our forecast too. I think, like
right.
you said, like this was a kind of heated discussion. I wouldn't call it an argument. We're all still friends
Really.
afterward, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we, this was not easy and left some people just feeling, like what are we doing? And
Dang.
I think and myself especially, I put a lot of personal pressure into getting things right.
How do you react when you bust? What's your feeling like? Are you do
Uh,
you ever get do you like the rest of us, where you when you bust, do you swallow your pride easily and go home and go, "Meh, whatever," or does it grind on you and make you wanna quit, and just do something different?
Nothing can make me want to quit, but I'm
Awesome.
I'm an anxious chaser, right? I'll get out there, and I know Matador Day last year in April, I was I just could not get over the fact that there are 2 potential targets. There's down south near Matador and up north where tornado actually ended up happening, the Pampa tornado late at night. And that whole day I was just distracted by there being 2 targets. Well, what if I miss this one? What if I miss that one?
Yeah.
And like I think my last couple of years or so, my mission has been to learn how to better live in the present. Pick a target and stick with it and have fun. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
beat myself up for bus for sure.
Well, then you're not alone. You're human just like the rest
Yeah,
of us. Contrary
yeah,
to what some people might think of Dr. Nixon, you're still a human. You still feel frustration. I love that, and the fact of the matter is big it's a big country out there. It's the
yeah,
plains are big,
yeah,
and state by state, the variability of the chase, you can set up on a dry line. There are so many options, and
yeah.
they all can be right. They can all
They
end up,
could.
you
Yeah,
know I don't
yeah,
know. That's the hard part for me, is I'm like, I'm coming from Arizona, I'm coming from West Texas, and I'm exhausted, and I've got to be on my A game. But
yeah,
you just try to enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, as dorky as that sounds.
yeah.
Sometimes you gotta lean into it and understand you're gonna have good days and bad days. Jim talked about it in the previous podcast, and it's okay to fail. We learn from our failures, and are they really failures if there's something to learn from? I'm sure that that's
That
had to
sounds like
come
something you would
through.
say. I
right?
don't know if that would console me in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to get through it. But what
Yeah.
about chasing? Do you ever chase the monsoon for someone like me who is out there? Or is it pretty much, what's your favorite place to chase? What's your
Yeah,
ideal?
that's a good question. I've not tried monsoon chasing. I've told a couple people that I probably wouldn't complain if I did that once because it sounds a lot more relaxing.
It is. Unless you're getting just annihilated by lightning in every
Yeah,
direction. That can be a little weird
yeah.
sometimes.
You got especially if if you're perched on these weird places. I don't know if I could get behind that, like going out to these really kind of out in the open places where I hate
You
lightning.
kinda got
Lightning
to.
lightning scares me. Yeah,
Yeah, you kinda have to. I mean, with these pulse storms and the bolts from the blues out, of course,
yeah,
you've seen the photos, and to get, just clear air bolts like that is phenomenal, but you can often find yourself on a little hill just trying to get, people think that the desert is just this big flat open area and that you can just set your
yeah,
camera.
no,
You come out, and as soon as you pull over somewhere, you just have this hedge of chaparral and the mesquite that's everywhere, and so you want to get a little bit of height. You just really want to be able to catch that bolt striking a tree or striking a pole or a car or
yeah,
whatever it is, something in the distance, and it's almost impossible unless you've taken the time to find some of these really great spots. So I do have to learn to mitigate risk, that's what we
yeah.
do, right? People tell me that all the time. I had a friend who rides motorcycles thinking I'm crazy, and I'm like, "Bro, you're gonna die on a motorcycle sooner than I'm gonna be struck by lightning for a third time." You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I couldn't get behind either, but no,
so
I think the only thing that's keeping me from doing that is that A, I just love supercells so much, and B, it's just I love the challenge of forecasting. To me, that's at least half of it is getting it right,
absolutely. There's not
figuring it
much
out.
to monsoon chasing you, but Cameron, I wanna know what is your current pursuit? You've talked about some of your studies in the past. Is there something you can share with us that you're doing now or that you're working on or that's weather related?
Yeah, yeah.
Give us a teaser.
Yes. Well, I can tease this. I actually just posted about it on Twitter a few days ago. So if you look down through my images, you might find it. But I am developing what is essentially an analog based forecasting system for broader use by the general public of meteorology and National Weather Service. And so if you've ever looked at a sounding and maybe seen kind of on the bottom like the analogs of SARS and
Mhm.
it'll spit out kind of the dates and like the probability of hail and tornadoes, that's what I'm focused on doing. And I want to kind of significantly change and improve the way we go about doing that. SARS, it was actually, I think, ahead of its time, a really cool concept. And when they made it back in the day, we just did not have the computational power that we have today and the data that we have today. So what they used in these sounding analogs are balloon launched sounding, so the ones that you only launch twice a day, hundreds of miles apart, right? And the events that occurred kind of right near those soundings. So if there's a tornado there, it would use that tornado report. But if an event happened between a weather balloon or kind of during the daytime when there's no launches, you can't kind of add that to your knowledge base, to your analog system. Um, and the way that we kind of go about making these analogs, or we used to, is by kind of comparing all the parameters, right? Like what is CAPE, what is 0 to 6 shear, what is 0 to 1 SRH, without kind of looking at the bigger picture. What does the skew T look like? What is the shape of the photograph? And so what I'm trying to do now is use RAP data. So, right, our beloved trusted RAP model
Right.
for literally every severe weather report, tornado track, hail swath that has ever occurred since the dawn of RAP time. So we got lots more data, and lots is probably an understatement. Uh, that using
That sounds like a
these,
big task though.
oh, it is. It just creating this data set was the last 6 months of work, getting it
Wow.
all to play well with each other because we have different ways of measuring tornadoes and different ways of measuring hail and different biases for wind estimations. It's a lot. It's a lot.
You got to have consistency before you can even begin to compare things.
Exactly. And so a lot of the stuff I'm also making a kind of algorithm to track hail events. So kind of like we do tornadoes, right? We have a track. If you go on Tornado Archive, you can see tornado tracks, the start and the end point. I'm doing the same thing for hail and potentially even wind. And
Oh,
so
cool.
being able to have that kind of track-based data makes it really cool when you're pulling analog and all the analogs are 45-minute long tornadoes.
Holy cow.
You have that kind of granularity in your data.
You know, the cool thing about all of that, and not even cool thing, but fact of the matter is hail, wind damage, all these things is a huge, it is a huge, that kind of destruction. The science is needed, and
Yes.
companies and there's a lot of money that is involved in making sure that, that companies can prepare for future possible damage coming in. I know that's science that is needed today to forecast for from trains and everything else. There's the flow of goods and commerce within the United States. That's a huge thing that needs to be worked out and to improve on that science. There's a huge potential for savings, like billions and billions of dollars in savings by contributing or making sure that we continue to fund the sciences, right? That we continue to get that money to save us in the future.
Science is good. Fun science, please. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of complimenting. I actually have a coworker who's working on kind of the footprint aspect of these hazards, right? Like what is the spatial area of people affected by hail on any given day? And what I'm learning in this analog system is that we really focus on tornadoes.
We do.
We spend a lot of time in our forecast process thinking about what are the chances that we get a tornado here, when in reality, these tornadoes are a very tiny kind of
Exactly.
portion of the area impacted. But
Hail,
of
man.
course,
I bet
yeah,
hail, I don't know the numbers, but hail has to be far more significant on a economical impact, hail damage for every
yes,
city. I mean, it's just even here
yes,
in El Paso and other places in West Texas, Arizona, we deal with hail also. And,
yes.
anything that's exposed from roofs, oh my goodness, I've had to replace my own roof from hail and lightning.
Hail is the costliest hazard in the U.S., and it's billions
Wow.
of dollars
Right.
per year. Yeah, so yeah,
Dang. Good times. Good times. You sent me a
absolutely,
few photos and I love watching and love hearing how you got these shots. So I'm going to pull up these other ones really quickly.
sure,
Go back to that. There's that Dora shot, which is just
yeah,
epic. Let's go with this
yeah.
one. I
So
love
this
this.
was you didn't see this one, did you?
I don't think so. Is this the
Okay.
Lubbock one?
Yeah,
Is
this
this
was,
near Lubbock?
Dalhart, kinda right where you got your, tornado earlier this year. For whatever reason, I thought
Okay.
you were here. This was, yeah, Dalhart back in, 20 I
2023?
think it's 2023, um, early
June 11th?
mid-June.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was actually a couple buddies of my chasecation, and this was day 0, right? We had a kind of a decent looking day after this, and we weren't really even planning on chasing this one, and I think we're just kind of bumbling around the Texas Panhandle, like, oh, we got a chance at a supercell, and my goodness,
No kidding. Do you
yeah.
have this printed?
So I'm so bad with printing my things. I don't
Come
have,
on, look at
I don't
me,
have.
man. I mean, I've got my best epic lightning here and
I
from
know.
near
I have
got it.
way more people who have my work printed than I have my work printed,
There
and
you
that
go.
that
Well,
needs
that's
to
good.
change.
That's honorable though. When somebody else goes, man, I got to have a print of this, and then you see it on their wall, you're just like,
Yeah,
kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? It's validating to know that hey,
yeah,
I can do this,
yeah.
and
I
I'm
do
a big
love
deal
that.
thing was joking.
Yeah, but I can also afford to print my own photos, so I don't know why I haven't done this one yet. Yeah. But this was just one of those classic, like, yeah, the best days are the ones that you're least expecting. I think we barely got into a marginal on this day.
So,
Yeah.
can you tell me in maybe less than a minute, why do LP storms rarely form tornadoes? Is it because they're elevated? And for someone who is not as knowledgeable, very intro, they're
Yeah.
just learning that low precipitation supercells like this, they don't produce a lot of rain. They're kind of all by themselves, and they're a little bit lofted up into the air. They look a little
Yeah.
higher,
Yeah.
but they're pretty. They're gorgeous. They're often the prettiest of the storms that you find out there. And why don't they spawn tornadoes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of it has to do with the prevailing kind of thermodynamic profile, right? How much low level buoyancy there is on days like this, and also how dry it is.
So down in here, down in this area we're talking about, like,
Yes.
is there
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, a lot of lift going in? If you can see the little arrows here, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
And
honestly,
helicity as well.
yeah. But on this day, buoyancy was actually kind of meager, and you can see that with that kind of sculpted, smooth appearance. And that means you literally had to force that air up. It's not tempted to rise on its own. And there's lots of exceptions, but in general, when you have this much kind of convective inhibition and you need this much forcing to get an updraft up, you're probably not going to be that conducive for tornado.
Okay.
There is this kind of secret um, overlap that I'm actively trying to figure out what it is. That you can get outrageously cool tornadoes with LP supercells, kind of like Wellfleet
Wow.
this year. And there seems to be a combination of very dry air, maybe a little bit of sand, but also lots of cake.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm still learning that as well, and that's exciting for me because that's
yeah,
kind of the next level. And I feel myself like, yes, I can get into this. I can now understand the next level of dynamics here and
yeah,
necessary.
yeah,
And then when I see this, I see the laminar as well, right? Is that the
yeah.
I'm assuming that this laminar look here is from what I understand, it's also indicative of the what is it? I just had it in my head again. I'm brain
You're
farting
fine.
really bad
Is
today.
that part of the
But
shear profile?
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's dry as well. There's lots of
Yes.
pockets of dry air getting entrained into this. See,
Yes.
it's
Oh, that's a
coming
good.
up.
Exactly. Yeah, where you see those, I call them cuts, like on especially on the
Uh-huh,
left hand
exactly
side, where you
right
see
here.
that dry air, yeah, cutting in. And that is exactly what that is. It's dry air
Thank you. Thank you.
entrainment.
New
Yeah.
here, still learning, still learning.
Yes.
But that's great,
Yeah.
and I love
Yeah.
that. And I'm sure there are people that are watching this. I have a lot of people that are watching this that just like to chase storms. Are not too big into the weather. But when they see that, they can understand that, like, okay, it's not just a
Yes.
chunk of moisture. It's not all moisture. There's dry air that's getting entrained into
Yes.
it, and it creates this really pretty stuff. So dry air
And
is not always a bad thing when it comes to taking photos.
no, and that's exactly what I was gonna say is that if you're a lifelong chaser, especially on the high plains, it's the environments that are most conducive to good photos can be those that are most hostile to supercells and tornadoes. You might look at it and say,
Right.
"Ooh, how can a storm survive in that?" But if it does,
Right.
it's a sight. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll what, I'm happy to get a bird for a tornado. I'll take it. I'll count it. I only
Oh, yeah.
have like less than 5 in my
Yeah.
buckets. Well, let's go to this big one here. This is,
Yes.
2024, May 24th, it looks like.
Yes. This was El Dorado, Oklahoma.
Okay.
A lot of people don't actually know how awfully Oklahomans pronounce El Dorado,
El
but that is,
Dorado?
yes, it
Isn't it El
is.
Dorado?
It is El Dorado.
My goodness.
Sorry, that's my
I'll
one
keep calling it El Dorado, so,
one party trick. Oh, I know. We all
right.
will. But this, yeah, this was another one of those days. Honestly, I think several of us had a decent feeling on this day. I actually chased with Jim on this day,
Okay.
and there was a split target between Kansas and Southwest Oklahoma, and it just looked like a classic dry line day where you got supercells coming out, interacting with each other and producing. And me and my anxious chasing, we were up sitting in Arnett, which is a haul from
Yeah.
El Dorado. And I was just like, I want to stay here. I want to stay here. I'm not missing the fabled cyclic supercell that comes out of here and moves into Kansas. I know some of the her
Wow.
runs were showing, like a 5 hour
Mhm.
long supercell. I didn't want to give that up. I was so stubborn. And finally, Jim's like, Cameron, look at the data. There's 3 cells initiating down here. And then of course my brain starts spinning. Ooh, 3 cells. That means storm interactions. That means merging.
Mhm. Nice.
As soon as he said that, I was just, let's go. And yeah, that's what happened. And I got to see kind of my pattern and my studies in action with that. Really have
Dang.
to thank Jim though for this shot. I'm
That's
not
awesome.
sure I would have made that jump without him.
And that's the cool thing about it. But these, when you see 3 supercells, then you start to worry about I actually saw this. I was home chasing, right? I'm sitting there and I've
Yeah.
got all the monitors up and watching different chaser streams. And I think there was a couple of years ago, and there was several supercells stacked, and everything was eventually going linear, right? Everything was supercell, and then everything turned into a big lined out MCS later on. But there was a couple of nudgers that looked like they could explode the tornado. The chances for tornado genesis were higher, but those nudgers ended up just turning it to mush. And
Yeah.
then those storms started. It was like a terrible bowling pins just falling
Massive
everywhere,
nudge train. Yeah.
and it turned to garbage. And everybody was just like, "Man, this was such a high risk day," and it just turned to garbage. And everybody like
Yep.
I think there was a couple of small tornadoes, but there was, if I remember correctly. But you start to look at that and go, well, you don't know what you're going to get. These nudgers can also screw things up, right? It can mess with the dynamics in a negative way.
Yeah.
But I love what I love most is you can see those extra columns, those pillars
Yeah.
in there just kind of spinning
Oh
around in
yeah.
there. So that's mean business. You don't want to be in there, man. I can
Yeah.
just
That
see
was
like,
a violent tornado.
was it? I can see that's going to toss cars, that stuff. And I don't know if we can get. I think is that the last one. We didn't talk about this one real quick, and then we'll get to that final one. But what's this one?
Yeah. This
17 February 28th.
yeah, this was Washburn, Illinois. Another one of my favorites because it was just a successful forecast. We kind of made a risk that night. We thought, or some people thought, like the convection would kind of hold off till the evening. And we're like, well, what if we have, that magical 1 hour window before sunset? So we really,
Yeah.
we went on a whim. Ultimately, yeah, just kind of stumbled on a supercell at just the right time. One of those moments where you get there and then 10 minutes later it comes down and it doesn't get much better than that.
Gnarly. Yeah, that's gnarly, dude. That's dirty and that's just
Yeah,
everything. And
yeah.
look at
It
that.
was
Look at that. Is that ghost train right there, basically? Is that what we
I
call it?
think it could
The
have been.
inflow
Yeah, I
notch
really
there?
think it could have been.
That's
Seeing all
amazing.
the dust kind of illuminate
See,
all the processes.
and if you're a chaser right here, you're going, gosh, this sucks, man. I need to get out of this,
There was a
It's
car that drove through it. We
I
have
know.
video of a car, like a local, that literally drove through that and
Were
came
they
out
okay, I'm
alive.
assuming, hopefully?
I'm assuming.
My goodness.
But
Goodness
Illinois,
gracious.
Illinois in February. Don't sleep.
Really? That was February. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
crazy. The good thing about chase season is that I've learned from Skip's videos too is there's a winter season too. And I
yes,
mean, their chase season is basically all year if you really look into it and
yeah.
start to
Especially up there in the Midwest,
Mhm.
they have a very long-lived chase season.
Right.
Yes,
So what about this? Who is this? And tell
this
us about
is my
why is
mother.
this
This is Mama Sue. This is her first tornado, and
and when
my
was this?
this was the Arnett Day earlier last
Okay.
year, and I tried so hard, and Mom knows to get her first tornado. We had so many chases that were barely even chases. When you drive out there and there's like, it's either full sun, like not a cloud in the sky, or you're just driving through rain the whole time. Like that's all we were doing. And I'm like, Mom, like I promise you, this is a legitimate hobby. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing here, but like you're gonna get your tornado one day. And sure enough, I mean, we woke up that day kind of knowing that we'd see something. It was just what we're gonna see. And I was just ecstatic. Mom knows I'm so passionate about what I do, and I've just been trying to share that with her over the years, and I'm really glad we finally got the opportunity. And now she's hooked, and I think she'll be back next year.
Good, good. There for me, I have had some success. Magazines, several magazines. I was on CBS, they were doing
Okay.
a thing on lightning, and it was
Yeah.
great to be able to go out there with David Pogue and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, the highlight of what I've been doing the last 10 years is when my mom, who passed away a couple of years ago, when she would see that and she would like want 5 newspapers because I was in the newspaper, and she would want my daughter to buy 10 magazines that I was in, and I would come home and she would just tell me that she's proud of me and, she's happy for me and to see me, light up, and I just want that for my kids. I want them to find that joy and that passion in life and be able to do that to them as well. Because that your mom here looks like she's proud of you. She's
Yes.
excited too. She finally saw it.
That is her proud face.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah, I think that was the last one. Fact of the
Yeah.
matter is, so you're gonna take her back out there then, you're saying?
But yeah, she's so, and now that my sister knows that this hobby actually sees people tornadoes,
Cool.
I think she'll be coming too.
It's addictive, right? This gig is addictive. That's amazing.
But
So
there's
what
just
about
no
those
greater feeling, I guess, just showing them this.
I think that's what, when we have those struggles, when you struggle and you miss 10 storms in a row and you're ready to quit, it always seems like you've popped out of the rain, like you were just talking about. You
Always,
come in, you're like, "Ugh," and you come out of the rain, you're like, "Holy smoke, there it
always.
is," right? That was me with that Dalhart, Texoma tornado. Yeah, it was so cool to have you interviewed for this podcast. I'm so glad that I had a chance to talk to you about that.
Thank
What would
you.
be something that you would tell maybe someone who is feeling like they're ready to give up chasing? Or they just couldn't make all the puzzles come together. Financially, it'll drain you. Mentally, it'll drain you. A lot of people want to give up. What would be kind of your advice as a last thing to say to someone?
Do it as much as you'll enjoy it, and this is a lesson that I'm learning myself right now. Is it's a fun hobby. If it's not fun, you're doing something wrong. I hate to say it.
Mm.
And even me, last year before, I chased every single setup, and it's like, if it's draining to you, if it's draining to your wallet, if it's draining to your relationships, right? I hope you've heard this advice before. You're doing it wrong. Find a way to make it fun.
There you go. There you go. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a different take, and it's definitely something we all need to do is we need to keep our priorities and take a look at our priorities, and you can make it you can do this. You can make it
Yes.
happen. What are your preferences if you had these? Let me quick lightning round. Mountains or oceans to photograph?
Ooh, to photograph. Probably oceans. I'm just
Yeah?
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm in general not a mountains person. I I don't know. With photography, maybe that might be different, but maybe if we're just talking vacationing, probably the oceans.
Oceans are pretty cool. I asked this question with others, but this is a dumb question in this case. NATO's or structure?
I mean, if we're being honest, structure, but it's a hard choice.
Really?
It's not like it's an
You're
easy choice for me.
I thought tornadoes would have been, the easy
Yeah,
answer for you.
yeah. I mean, it's hard because sometimes I measure my success by tornadoes, but like at the end of a year, I just get in, I look at all my photos, and like structure just usually takes my heart. Like
I
all my
do
best
love
photos are
structure.
structure.
Right? Yeah, the LPs or something,
Yeah,
sunset.
yeah.
So, that being said, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset. I'm never awake for sunrise.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know. But I've seen some amazing storms that pop up at, maybe those all-nighter MCSs with sprites and all that good stuff.
You can enjoy those.
Finally, what's your top item on your bucket list?
Ooh, that's hard.
Is it? I love sprites, man. I didn't get sprites this year.
Yeah,
And, yes, I wanna capture more really pretty tornadoes, but I still
yeah.
it's
Over here
always a
at
bucket list.
optics and phenomenon. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
enthusiasts. I think sprites are pretty high up there. I think I guess my priority in like weather themed experiences is probably somewhere up north for the Northern Lights, maybe
Really?
Iceland. Yeah, yeah.
But not Northern Lights in Oklahoma. You wanna go to
But yeah, like an actual be under a crazy display. I think that would be pretty cool.
I like them. 'Em.
Yeah,
They're fun, and everybody says that, like, when you're in Fairbanks or you're in Iceland, that there's nothing like it. It's
yeah, yeah,
otherworldly.
yeah,
That could be cool.
yeah,
I could forgo some people are saying, "I wanna capture, like, an epic haboob," and I'm like, "Man, I saw about 10 of those last year and 10 big ones,
yeah.
in White Sands and Arizona and New Mexico." I couldn't get away from 'em.
They're tough.
They're
I
massive dust events.
yeah, I actually chased a couple in Lubbock, and none of them were fun. Like I got a couple cool photos.
Right. It's like run, take a
Yeah,
picture,
yeah,
or stop, and it's kinda cool to let it overtake you, but then you're
yeah,
sitting there and everybody on
yeah,
YouTube is telling me what an idiot I am for not
yeah,
wearing a mask and valley fever, and I promise I'll have better face and eye protection next time. It
yeah.
even destroyed my glasses, by the way, I didn't share that, but my last pair of glasses,
No,
it pitted my glasses and peeled off the layer. We got an opportunity to talk about Mr. Hodo himself, so I appreciate you joining us and
appreciate you.
thank you so much. And I hope to see you this year, man.
Yeah,
I have not met you out on the trail sometime on the trail.
yeah.
On the
There you go. Good. Well, let's make it happen. I'm right up here in Norman, so if you find yourself in
Awesome.
Oklahoma, just give me a ring.
For sure. Dr. Nixon, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is
And
awesome.
that'll wrap for the Storm Before the Calm podcast. Thanks for bearing with my stuttering a little bit. I hope you gleaned a lot of really cool information from Dr. Nixon. There's so much to learn out there. That's kind of what some of these podcasts are for. Share the knowledge, and don't be a gatekeeper. You might be that person that somebody else just needed to hear a kind word to. So that being said, thank you everyone for listening and for bearing with us and having fun with us. We will see you on the next one. And everyone, shine your light while you still have it. Take care. Bye, everybody.